Welcome back. This is going to be our MRS22 Spring 2021 Transmission Functions Quiz 1 Review Part 2. Please make sure you catch Part 1. And in this case, we're going to be building our transformations based upon building our functions based upon transformation given a parent function now. So for number 3, if f of x equals x squared, find the function g of x, the function f of x after the following transformations in the following order. So we're going to list these, and I want you, when we do these, kind of write them out as you see them. So the first one says shift to the right by 3. And so that would mean in this case, the very first thing we have is going to have the x value being subtracted by 3. So that's our first component. Okay? So in this order, we're first going to shift to the right by 3. Right? So again, when you're shifting left and right, you're always going to be adding, subtracting the x value, in this case, within the parenthesis. Okay, so now we're next going to reflect in the x-axis. Now, reflection in the x-axis, okay, is going to mean we're going to multiply, by -1, okay? So a reminder in this case, so probably a good idea to write down what's going on here. All right. So for the first one, we'll shift right by 3, subtract x by 3. Okay, and so reflecting the x-axis, multiply by -1. So -1 times the whole thing here, because we're building this, will be negative x minus 3 squared. Okay? Vertically stretched by a factor of 7 means we're going to multiply by 7, which means we get 7 times negative parenthesis x minus 3 squared, which will give us, in this case, negative 7 x minus 3 squared. And finally, shift up by 5 means we're going to add 5, okay? Which means, in this case, add 5 to the very end, we're going to get, in this case, g of x, all right? So add 5 to the very end, we have negative 7 times x minus 3 squared, and we add 5 at the end. Because in this, when shifting up by 5, it's going to be adding by 5, again, outside the parentheses here. So g of x is going to be negative 7 x minus 3 squared plus 5. All right? It is important for us to know which transformation is what operation in this case. Okay? And that's it. We're going to just build on top of each other. And yes, I do want you to write down in this case the operation you're doing, okay, and what you're doing. So if you say subtract by 3 for the first one, it will not be enough. Okay? Okay? And maybe you might say, well, what about 5? What about 4? Well, okay. All right? Add 5 to the function. Because we're specifically adding 5 not to the x value, but to the function itself, though. All right? And maybe we'll say, in this case, multiply the function by -1. And multiply the function by 7. Okay? So you want to be specific about what we're doing here. All right? So this way, as a reader and grader, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Now, yeah, you definitely have to review your notes when it comes to what transformation is what operation and where it's being occurring. So for number 4, if f of x was square root of x, find the function g of x, the function f of x after the following transformation in the giving order. Make sure to show each step for each transformation. So for the first one, we have reflection in the y-axis. So here we begin with A. Now it's not separate. Okay, just keep in mind, A, B, C, and D are not separate. They're basically successive. Now, yes, they are going to be. But you're then going to do after you do A, you're then going to build for B. So if you're just going to do just each one on square root of x, it's not going to get credit because that's not what we're doing here. We're trying to find the function g of x, not different functions g of x, though. It might look that way because we're coming up with all these different values, but instead what happens is what we're really doing is we're trying to build on top of one, top of the other. So for A, reflect in the y-axis, this would mean that we replace x with negative x. Okay, we're going to replace x with negative x. And so now we have the square root and in the parenthesis, negative x here. So we get the square root of negative x. And that's what we have for the first transformation. The second transformation says shift up by 8 units. And this means add 8 to the function. So that means in this case we have square root of negative x plus 8. And that's what we're using now here. Okay, different from adding 8 underneath the radical because that would be a horizontal shift. Here, adding 8 units, shifting up by 8, which that's what we're doing, adding 8 to the square root. Now we're going to reflect in the x-axis, which means multiply the function, the whole thing, by negative 1. And so we're going to have negative 1 times the square root of negative x plus 8. So that's what we get. All right. And now for the last part, vertically stretch by a factor of 4, multiply the whole function by 4. And therefore, we're going to have 4 times negative 1 times the square root of negative x plus 8, close parentheses twice, which means our g of x will end up looking like negative 4 times parenthesis the square root of negative x plus 8, close parenthesis. And that's what it looks like here. And just as we are using order operations to work backwards to be able to find out the transformations being performed, in this case, we're building layers upon layers, in this case, based upon the directions of each transformation in the order giving us, though. Okay? All right, everybody, that's how we want to do this now. You want to mention all the things you're doing. You want to mention what's being done here, okay? You want to be specific about what's being done. So if you say multiply by negative 1, multiply the whole function by negative 1. If you say add 8, you say add 8 to the function. Multiply by the whole function by 4. You want to say all these things here, okay? All right, everybody. Hope it's helpful, and I want to wish you guys luck on your quiz. All right, definitely get a chance to watch this and all because I think it's very useful. Hopefully, it's useful and all. And if you found it useful, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, because you can get turn notifications to notify when new videos are added to my channel. And of course, leave any questions or comments in the comment section below. So hopefully, I'll be able to answer them in time if you have them and all. But I want to wish you good luck on your quiz, though. Okay, take care, everybody. Be safe.